Hey, how's it going? This time I'm doing a review on my favorite tank, the T-54 Mod 1 first prototype. Enjoy! Okay, so I'm not really going to go super deep into the statistics of this tank. You can always look at a website like TanksGG if you're curious and want to compare it to other vehicles you might be interested in. Basically, to give you a general idea, it's got 250 alpha on a gun that reloads. It's going to be between 6 and 7 seconds depending how you set it up. It's got 7 degrees of gun depression, average accuracy, good gun dispersion values as you'd expect on a Russian medium. Damage per minute is pretty much average at tier 8. I've got it set up with vents and rammer, so it's going to be a bit on the low side if you decide to run coated optics instead. Hit points average, armor, I'm going to get to that a bit later, it's pretty good. Mobility, you've got 44 top speed, which isn't great, but you can definitely maintain that top speed on pretty much any kind of flat or downhill terrain. So specific power definitely makes up for a bit of a lack in top speed. Traverse speed, pretty good. Concealment is actually quite good, seeing as it is a low profile vehicle. And view range, 420 as I've got it set up. That's not great, but that's because I'm not using coated optics. You can always switch these pieces of equipment out for coated optics, or you can run bounty or bonded equipment and run food. Either of those options will get you up to that 445 view range that some players like to have. The shells in this vehicle, you've got AP, APCR, and HE. The AP is quite poor. I pretty much never use this shell unless I'm absolutely certain that I can pan and hit at fairly close range. So I stick to the APCR. It's a bit more expensive, but it just has that really nice shell velocity. You'll notice the difference here. And it's also got 57 millimeters better pen. HE's not much good. I keep a few just in case I run into a lightly armored RD or TD. Okay, so here you can see the armor profile in TanksGG. The upper plate and the turret is pretty much impenetrable. You've got a cupola and a lower plate that are going to be a bit weak, but it's pretty easy to hide those and to wiggle and really make yourself hard to pen. Looking at it versus 247 millimeters penetration on the APCR rounds, this is going to be your gold rounds for a lot of tier 8s and your standard rounds for tier 10s. The upper plate becomes penetrable, but not reliably penetrable, and if you over-angle, you can definitely still make it bounce stuff. The lower plate, the cupola, and now the turret cheeks are definitely weak points, but again, if you wiggle, if you try and hide your lower plate, you can still actually bounce even some high-tier tanks. I've got it angled to the maximum here. You can't really angle it anymore without making your side vulnerable. But here you can see it's enough to at least bait shells with the side, and the tracks are definitely going to absorb some of the damage that you might otherwise take. So to use the armor, my biggest tip is just to keep moving. Little wiggles, little dodges. Make yourself hard to hit because there are weak points, but they're small enough that it's very easy to make your enemies miss them. So you can definitely go hull down as long as you're moving back and forth, side to side, up and down a little bit on the ridge line. You can definitely bait with the front plate here. If you over angle around a corner, that's almost more useful than side scraping in this vehicle, I feel like, because you can't side scrape to the degree that you can in a heavy tank. Otherwise, you're just going to leave yourself open to getting penned in the side. I would be careful about the front cogwheel on this tank. If you poke out too much, you can definitely get that shot and penned, and it's just such a juicy shot that you want to look out for that. Again, cupola, and unfortunately, it's super vulnerable to RD. Only 15 millimeters on the back deck. I've gotten full penned by RD a painful number of times, so look out for that. So it actually took me a few games worth of recording to find a tier 10 battle, but I wanted to show that just to see how the tank performs in a, I guess you could say, worst case scenario. This one here is on steps, and we've got 3 tier 10s and then a few tier 9s and then the rest tier 8s, so still not terrible. I think the matchmaking fixes have been pretty beneficial overall. And the first thing I'm going to do is just head up to the ridge in front of me, load some APCR, and try and shoot down some light tanks that might be overexposing. So APCR for light tanks, you might be thinking, why are you doing that? But as I mentioned earlier, the shell velocity on the APCR rounds is so much better. It's actually insane, the difference. And I just make the decision I'd rather hit a few more shots for, a bit of a cost, but it's a premium tank, so you're still going to be making credits anyway. There's a shot into the Bulldog, hit his tracks, and he gets shut down. So really nice to be able to hit the tracks on that guy. And here you can see, well, the accuracy is not terrible. It's definitely not good enough to hit a snapshot at that kind of range. Now, the deployment of my team is a bit interesting. We've basically got no one on the 1-2 line. And as a tier 8, I'm definitely not going to go over there and hold it by myself. You got to work as a support vehicle, even in a tank like this, which doesn't really work well as a support vehicle, you could say. You still got to play it like one. So I'm just staying here, looking for a few more shots. They're not coming, though, and just the situation with my team on the map kind of forces me to do something. So I could go join the rest of my team, but in reality, they're pushing really hard. I'm a tier 8 vehicle. I don't have the DPM to really make a huge impact there. And I'm confident that they're going to win that side. There's no question about it, seeing as 13 tanks are there. So I'm going to go down the middle, and I wouldn't really do this play if it wasn't for the fact that the whole of my team is distracting any enemy tanks in the base. So that means I should be able to put in some nice cross shots and hopefully get some enemies that are completely distracted and not paying attention to me. Batchat is the first victim. And here's the T-54 lightweight. Now he's actually going to play this well. He's going to stay behind the rock. I could push him, but that's going to be expensive. And there could be tanks like 4005 or Leo or RHM in the back that could punish me for that. So I'll just let my allies kill him in this case. Probably should have taken the shot there, but oh well. I was actually ignoring this guy longer than I should have. A little bit tunnel vision from me, and then the first shot misses. It's kind of too bad because that's a really important tank to take out. He's really stopping our advance. Hopefully we hit him blind though. And again, it's not a great sniper, this tank. It's not bad when you use the APCR, but it's still not like a German tank or something like that. Here I'm just going to auto-aim and then pop back down the ridge again. That's something you can do in this tank because it does have decent dispersion values, especially with a vert stab. And that's a way just to make yourself rather hard to hit by only exposing your upper plate and turret. Your opponents are really going to have to put in some crazy snapshots to be able to damage you for that. Low probability shot on the cupola, so I'm just going to wait till he backs down a little bit more and put it into his lower plate. And here's really where staying alive gets rewarded, because in a tier 10 game, it's hard to get a lot of damage at the start because you're going to be facing tanks that are going to have an advantage on you, right? But if you can wait till the end, when they're surrounded, when they're distracted, you can actually rack up some decent damage even in a tier 10 game. I'm a little bit frustrated with that guy to my left there because he makes me miss a shot, but oh well. A more accurate tank might have hit that shot. You can't have everything though. And there you can see APCR rounds, more than enough to deal with, I guess you could say the best armored 2.8 heavy. It's not ultra high pen, you still have to aim, but, I mean, it's enough to deal with whatever you face, really, as long as you're aiming for weak points. I wouldn't recommend brawling head-on with a mouse anyway. I know this guy's reloading, and we shut him down, so decent game there. That's pretty much how I'd recommend playing tier 10s in your tier 8 tanks. In reality, you're probably not going to get any monster games in this kind of a matchup in this tank, just because of the strengths of the tank. You know, its armor's not going to be super effective. It's not really going to be able to brawl the way you want it to in a tier 10 match. But you can still have some pretty decent games if you just stay patient. And there you can see top damage, 3.2k, top XP as well. And nice profit there. Spend about half of it on ammunition, but I mean, 71,000, still decent. Okay, so this next one's actually a replay because I wasn't recording, but I wanted to show this game because I thought it really showed how insanely dominant this tank can be when it's top tier. It's actually kind of crazy. So, on Pilsen, I'm going to head towards the center to punish the cross. I load an HE round here as my first shell, and that's going to take out this door in one shot, rather than two. And then APCR again, just to have that nice shell velocity to hit any heavy tanks crossing. I was hoping to catch out like an IS-3 or a Tiger 2 because that's an important target to take out. But I think they must have crossed in the back safely or very quickly because I'm not seeing them at all. Black Prince, however, he's a bit slower and we're able to put a shot in. At the start of the game, if you don't have, an obvious position that you're going to take, just set up to punish a cross like this. I mean, you have to be careful not to bleed on it, but peck away at your enemies, and then later on, when it's more clear where you can go there. This is actually a really nice shot. Never going to hit that with AP rounds in this tank, so the APCR shell velocity there coming in handy. And yeah, at this point I'm just thinking, if I commit to either side, I'm probably going to take a lot of damage and not actually get that much out of it. So I'd rather just wait, be patient. And yeah, I'll let the enemies do the poking. You can side scrape in this tank. I wouldn't say you can fully side scrape to the point that you can actually get a good clean shot while remaining safe, but definitely still angle, because it's going to make it harder for your enemies to hit you. Nice shot into the T-20 there. And then just always keeping an eye on the map. Looking behind me here, I see this Chinese medium tank is trying to climb up our ramp to spot TDs. And they just don't have a chance at this kind of range when I'm behind a rubble pile like this. The armor profile of this vehicle is very well suited to rubble piles and things like that are going to cover your side. Now I'm actually going to reverse side scrape on this guy. I'm not sure how well it would have worked if he shot me, but I bet he would have actually hit the turret or the tracks rather than penning me. Obviously not something you want to do against high-tier tanks, though. Now, this is actually kind of rare staying in this position all game. I don't expect people to just drive out in front of you like they were this game, but hey, I'll take it. Again, the APCR rounds on this tank, very handy for that kind of situation where you want to get nice, accurate, precise shots into well-armored tanks, like the Super Pershing there. Okay, so now I'm realizing probably not going to be any more tanks crossing on either side. I'm just going to drive towards where I feel the most enemy tanks are left. And here you can see the mobility. I'd say it's pretty average. It's definitely enough to get around, but you're not going to be avoiding shots because of it, per se. That's what the armor's for. I decide driving into an IS-3 head-on is probably a bad decision. So I'm going to go out around the back. At this point in the game, there's not too many tanks that are going to be able to shoot me. And there's that IS-3. This is a really nice shot into his tracks, into his engine, and I keep him still behind this post so he can't return fire. And we shut him down. Now, a Jag Tiger 88 into the tracks. And then it's just a free farm, really. This guy's got a good repair speed. Not that it really matters, honestly, when I'm just behind him, farming him. That's gotta be a painful tank to play at the end of the game when you're surrounded. And there's the Tiger. Happy to see he's still got a good bit of health left that I can farm. And there you can see as I was turning there, just enough to throw his aim off. And yeah, you do bounce tier 8 tanks, I wouldn't say reliably from the front. It all depends whether they aim and whether they get good RNG, but you can definitely pull off enough bounces to keep you alive in a combat situation. And there we go. 5.2k damage, 5 kills, and not a single hit point of damage taken. So that just shows you, against tier 7s, against tier 8s, how crazy powerful this tank is, because most of the time they aren't going to be able to pen you, and you've got a nice DPM and alpha damage combination to basically shut them down. And you can even play from range if you want with the APCR rounds that this tank has. So hopefully that showed you why the T-54 Mod 1 is one of my favorite tanks, a great tier 8 credit maker and crew trainer, and definitely worth picking up if you're interested in Russian medium playstyle. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.